Hey, what's up everybody? This is Dave with Alum House Sound. We're back with another video today to answer the very important question, which effects do I use on my live stream? Let's jump in now. All right, so for my preferences, if I had to pick one effect to use, I would use the Vintage Reverb. We're gonna dive into the board in a minute and I'll show you. But the Vintage Verb emulation that's in this X32 console sounds great. I can use it on the band, I can use it on vocals, and it just creates a lot of options and opportunities that when proper EQing is applied, the thing sounds fantastic. So that's my kind of my number one go-to. If I had to pick one reverb to go to. However, in my scenario, I also like to put some delay on my vocals. And so delay in itself is a little, it's too much of an effect and less of a presence, if you will. So what I like to use is the delay plus chamber on my vocals. So delay plus chamber, it's a delay effect with a reverb attached to it. And so you've got a lot of settings in there, a lot of features that you can update, adjust and tweak to really set the sound the way you want it. But what I like is that it makes the delay sound distant. It makes it sound a bit more natural and a less artificially created, like you might hear in a pop track. So the stereo delay is a good option. The 3-tap delay, I use that a lot when I'm mixing live, but when I'm actually mixing for the live stream, that effect is not masked by the reverb of the natural room. So by using delay plus chamber, it gives me that ability. Now, we'll dive into the console and look, because for me, I'm actually running 3 different effects on my vocals and then a 4th one for my band. So let's dive in now. All right, so we're taking a look at my console here, and this is the scene that I use for live streaming. If you haven't seen the rundown on this, check one of my previous videos. I'll link it up here in the top, and you can take a look at that. It goes through the entire setup of this console and the scene. We're using the entire console for live streaming, so we're not using a matrix mix, with our mains plus some other stuff. We're not using an aux mix on the front of house console. We have a full dedicated console just for streaming. So it's kind of a nice setup because that gives me a lot of opportunity within my effects racks to make this live stream really good. Let's look at my effects racks real quick. So if you're not familiar with these effects racks here on the X32, we have 2 sides, the left side and the right side. The left side is more of your true effects, something more like a send and return, a reverb, a delay, things like that. The side on the right is insert only. If you're used to analog consoles, you'd know what the insert area on the back of the console was for. So the way I'm using these, if we look at the right-hand side, effects rack number 5, which is the top right, that's the 1176 emulation. They call it the Ultimo compressor. It sounds great. It works very much like an 1176, which I use all the time. So I have effects rack number 5, just one side of it on my vocal group. Then below that, I've got the dual de-esser. That's hitting my male lead and my female lead on their individual channels. Further below that, effects rack 7, this is another Ultimo compressor. This one's going to be running in stereo, and this one is feeding my drum bus. And then effects rack 8 is my precision limiter. Most of my other videos, you've heard me talk about using the precision limiter for your stream, and that's what we're using it for here. That's the last thing in the effects rack and the last thing in the signal flow before my audio goes out to my live stream. Now, what this video is about is the left-hand side, though. On the left-hand side, the top left, is my room reverb. I'm going to click into this. So this room reverb is running for my band, and it sounds great. I do have a 2-second decay, and if I flip down to the second screen here, we'll see I do have vintage turned on. It adds some nice warmth in there. 40 millisecond pre-delay is pretty standard. Then my low cut is just above 100 there at 113, and a high cut at 11K. And this is what I'm running for my band. You could run vocals through it as well, but again, I've got a couple different effects that I'm using for my vocals. So if I keep going, the next one is a plate verb. So this plate verb is a incredibly short reverb. This is just to help give depth back into my vocals. So what I'm doing is we are close miking our vocals to help kill drum bleed and anything else into those microphones. Anything that you do on stage, 3-4 fingers away from the microphone, that's close mic'd, as opposed to being in a studio where you might have 9, 12, even 15 inches that the mouth is away from the microphone. So you get depth with that distance, but we have to artificially add it in. So you see I've got a pre-delay over here of 0 milliseconds. Then my decay is a 0.56 seconds, which is very short. And then the size of the room is 22%. That's 22 out of 100. And so that creates a very small room. Our second layer here, I do have a high cut at 3K and a low cut at 89, just to round off some of the low and the high end. And so that is my plate verb for a short reverb. Now if I keep going, we hit the long reverb that I'm using for my vocals right now. Previously I did have the vintage verb. This one tends to feel more like the room that we're in. So this one is just the ambience reverb here. Got a 52 millisecond pre-delay, a 0.8 second decay. The room size is pretty small, 44% out of 100. Damping at 5K, and then diffuse is 28. Come down here, I do have a high cut at 6K and again a low cut at 97. Those are pretty standard settings. So this is where I'm actually getting the room sound for my vocals, as opposed to the previous delay, which was just a short delay. And then the last one that I've got on here for my vocals as well is the delay chamber, which we talked about previously. This one gives me a delay. So layer number 1 here is about our delay. So I've got a tap tempo set up as one of my assignable keys, but right now it's at 400 milliseconds. The pattern is 1/2, and my high cut is 6K, 30% feedback, and 12% crossfeed. And then the second layer is about the actual reverb that's grouped with this, the chamber portion of this effect. This one has a 0 millisecond pre-delay, so every piece of this delay is affected with the room sound and softened. I've got a 0.3 second decay, super short, 18% on the size, and then again 4K as a high cut, and then 113 as a low cut. So that's a quick run through of the effects that I'm using here for my room for the band, the vintage reverb like we talked about, and then the other 3, a short verb, a long verb, and the delay chamber for my vocals. All right guys, that's it for this video. Just a quick look at some of the effects that I'm using right now, some of the ones that I've landed on. Obviously these reverbs are based on the room that I'm in, and when we move to our bigger venue with a bigger stage, I'm gonna look at potentially changing some of those reverbs so that the viewer looks at the stage, looks at the room, and hears something that sounds appropriate. Well, listen, if you've got questions or comments, put those in the comment section below. I'd love to see what you're chatting about and answer your questions if I can help out. Also, play around with these effects, play around with the EQ and the compression on the insert side and on the return side, and give a thumbs up. That helps everybody see more of this content and more of these videos. Thanks for checking it out. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.